Okay, so my name is Terry Swartz Russell. I am the Director of Family and Adult Education at Temple Emmanuel in Newton, Massachusetts. And we're thrilled today, to bring you a program that I think has quite a significance about Palestinian and Israeli relations. So we're hosting the Parent Circle Family Forum dialogue, and which was brought to us by Temple Emmanuel member members Melissa and Bernie Bernstein. So I'm going to welcome Melissa to unmute and to say a few words, and then we'll continue on with the program.
Hi, everyone. So glad that you could be here. I just want to, tell you how we came to the Parent Circle, and maybe start by saying it. I think it's one of the most important organizations that I've ever heard of. And we're just so happy to be able to, donate and help in any way. Several years ago, we were looking for an organization to donate to in Israel, but we wanted it to be something that would help Palestinians and Israelis, not one or the other. And just by chance, by Googling, we came upon the Parent Circle, and this is a place that we donate the most money each year out of all the organizations that we feel we want to fund. I don't think there's anything like it. The stories are so real and so moving, and and who can say no to bereaved members of the Parent Circle coming together for peace? There's just nothing to say after you hear these stories except, how can I help? So and I'm also the artistic director of Newton Theater Company, and we'll talk more about this, I think, a little later. But in 3 weeks, we are beginning a production. We'll have an in-person production here in Newton of a play that we created called Our Tears Are the Same Color, Parallel Narratives of Palestinian and Israeli Women. So I interviewed 4 women from the Parent Circle, and with these interviews created a collage of their monologues. So I'll put in the chat just info on that, and then if you want me to say anything more afterwards,
that would be great.
Yeah,
yes, we'll give the date. Temple Emmanuel's hosting one of the performances, so you'll hear more about it later. Right now, I want to welcome Anita Silvert from the Parent Circle to tell us a little bit about the organization, how it got started, and then we'll have our speakers.
Sure. Hi. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Parent Circle Families Forum started a little over 25 years ago in Israel and Palestine. This organization, Neve and Lila, are going to be speaking on behalf of the American Friends of the Parent Circle, which is, of course, the fundraising arm for Parent Circle over in the Middle East. Some of the things that your support will go towards there are a couple of programs that we run every year. One is the summer camp for teenagers, Palestinian and Israeli teenagers. And you remember, for Israeli kids, it's the time when they're going to be starting their army service. And so their awareness of Palestinians on a real person-to-person basis is crucial. And for for all Palestinian kids in general, Palestinians in general, they've never seen an Israeli who wasn't in uniform. So the whole purpose of this is to bring these teenagers together and start this next generation of understanding and empathy. We have the parallel narrative experience. So we've got people who are sharing their lens of what people see in the same event, and it's important to understand, and that's the basis of what we do, is to begin to understand each other's narratives, each other's perspective, and each other's humanity. There's a women's group. Parent Circle also, so bringing Palestinian and Israeli women together. There's also an annual, and you'll be hearing about this soon, the Israeli-Palestinian Joint Memorial Day ceremony, which is taking place May 3rd this year. Terry, I'll make sure you get information about that.
Yeah.
Last year, over 250,000 people logged in to view the ceremony. And so that's something we put on every year. And it's very, very important and very, very moving. And then finally, these dialogue meetings are crucial to getting the word out. Parent Circle in Israel and Palestine will spend a lot of time in schools and community centers and talking to people and bringing people together who would not normally sit in the same room together. These are the kinds of things that Parent Circle does with the intent to spread this vision of understanding, humanity, empathy, and nothing is going to change until we start talking to each other. And that's the vision of the organization. So with that, I turn it back to Terry.
Okay, so I'm going to
introduce our speakers.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to introduce our speakers. We have with us Laila Al-Sheikh and Neve Sarig, and I'm going to introduce Laila first. She lives in Bethlehem in the West Bank. In 2002, her 6-month-old son, whose name I didn't ask you how to pronounce, Kusei, became ill, and Israeli soldiers prevented Laila from taking him to the hospital for more than 5 hours. Kusei soon died from the lack of timely treatment. Laila joined the Parent Circle in 2016. Following her son's death, she never thought of revenge, but rather has devoted her time and energy to ensuring a better, more peaceful future for her children. And Neve is from Kfar Saba in Israel. In September 1996, on the eve of Sukkot, Neve's brother, Guy Sarig, was killed in action. He was serving as a border patrol officer in Tulkarm in the West Bank. He was shot by a Palestinian sniper while attempting to save the life of a fellow Israeli soldier. Neve later joined the Parent Circle Families Forum, and alongside bereaved Palestinian members, speaks to audience about his story and his choice of reconciliation as a path towards peace. So I think we'll let Laila begin. So if you'll unmute yourself, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to thank you to hosting us today. And good morning, everyone. But we have agreement, me and Nev, that he will start. So I'm sorry, he will start.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's
Neve,
totally,
Never mind.
Nobody told
Never
me.
mind.
no
Never
one told
mind.
us. No one told us as well, Terry. It's totally fine. Actually, I wanted to say just a couple of words before letting Laila start, but that is also it's totally your plan,
However
Terry.
you want to do this.
I want to say a couple of things before we both tell our stories. So one thing is the plan, as we said. I think we will be, first of all, I'm very excited to be here, and thank you very much for inviting both of us, Laila and me. I guess that each of us will just tell us stories. So Terry gave a very nice introduction, but I think that part of the strength of the Parent Circle Family Forum and the method and the way that we believe we can bring for peace and more than that for reconciliation is to utilize and to use our personal stories. I think this is where our strength comes from. And so I think we should just start from that. So Laila probably will tell her story for how long it will take. Then I will have my 10 or 20 minutes as well. And then we'll just open it for general questions. We might also share some information about the forum itself, the PCFF, the Parent Circle Family Forum. And as I said, we can start with any discussion. So I think the best is to start from the personal stories, and even before the grief and the tragedy that each of us experienced, we have a full life, and I think the story should include all of that clearly. So when we do these dialogue meetings, whether in Israel or in Palestine, we usually present each other when we are on our own quote-unquote ground or place. So whether it was in Tel Aviv, I guess I would present Laila, and if it was in Bet Sahur or Bethlehem or any other place, I would present me. We are on a neutral zone now, which I think it's a good thing. So thank you, Terry, for presenting both of us. And Laila, please start. Thank you very much for being with me here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nev, and thank you, everyone, and good morning. So as Anita said, that my name is Laila Sheikh. I'm from a village called Batir. It's near Bethlehem. My parents originally from Batir, but in 1967, my parents went to Jordan because my father was a teacher and he wanted to teach the children in the camps in Jordan. So after that, the war was started and the Israeli government closed the border. So, sorry, they lost their citizenship as Palestinian and they become a Jordanian citizen. So me and my brothers and sisters were born in Jordan. My childhood was very normal, but maybe the unique thing that my father was always speak about his life in Palestine and speak about the places, his relative, all his life he always talk about. And I love my father so much, and I was really dreamed all my life to come back and live in the same places that he were in, and maybe meet the people that he was know and his relative. So I finished my study in accounting business in Jordan. And after that, I met my husband in 1999. I came to Bethlehem to get married. The first year was amazing. It was really a dream come true. And I was really so happy to be here and to live and to go to the same places that I was really heard about from my father. And our happiness become much more after 1 year when we have our first daughter. She was clever and we love her so much. And we were so happy to have our own family. But after 2 months, the second uprising was started. And at that time, I was really so afraid because it was the first time I lived in a situation like that. And the most maybe thing that happened at that time, that the Israeli government take a decision not to give the people like me who came from other countries a Palestinian ID. So that meant that I can't go freely from place to place. Most of the time I should stay at home. But at the time I wasn't care too much because I have my daughters to take care of and my husband. And the next year we have our second child. He was a boy. We named him Qusay. Our happiness became much more because our family became bigger and I will be much busier with them, not think all the time about my family in Jordan. And we start to have a planning for their future and start to think a lot about that. But that happiness was ended 11th of April 2002, 4 o'clock in the morning, when he was woke up in very critical condition because at that night the Israeli soldiers came to our village and they threw tear gas and he smelled some of it. At that time, the treatment in our village wasn't good enough. So in the morning, we tried to take him to the hospital inside Bethlehem. Then the Israeli soldiers stopped us and they said, it's military zone, you can't enter. So the next chance was to take him to the next city called Hebron. And again, they told us that the main road is closed and the only chance that we have is to take him to Hebron, but we should like take a rough and long road. But it was the only chance that we have. So we go there. And between two villages, we faced another Israeli checkpoint. They stopped us, they searched the car. They asked about the ID of my husband and my father-in-law. So then my father-in-law, because he's the only one who speaks Hebrew, he went to them and he started to talk to them. And he told them that our son in very critical condition and we should take him to a hospital, but they didn't listen to him. And they told us to stay in the car. So at that time I was holding him, I was looking to him, feel hopeless, didn't know what to do. As a mother, I tried to save him and protect both of them all my life. So how could I now sit there without doing anything? So I start to think to have a risk. And that risk will be that if they find that I didn't have my Palestinian ID, maybe they will take me to jail or send me back to Jordan and I will never see my children again. But at that time, the only thing that I was care about and think about is my son. So I went to them, started to talk to them in English, and I told them that our son should be in a hospital as soon as possible because his condition become much worse. They start to laugh at me and they asked me to stay in the car. They stopped us more than 5 hours. And finally, they said, yeah, you can now move. So when we reached the hospital, the doctor said that it was too late for him. And if he will stay alive after 48 hours, he will be handicapped. So for me, I was, the two choices was so hard to really imagine or believe. I started to cry. I was falling down the ground, didn't know what to do. A few minutes later, they take him to the intensive unit care, and we stay out of the room. They didn't let us in. 2 o'clock in the evening, the doctor came and he started to ask us to leave. And when I told him why, and he said that the Israeli soldiers came to the hospital and they said that the fighters sometimes came and hide inside the hospital and they will search it. And anyone who is not sick, they will ask him to leave. So I told him about our son, he's a child and he need us and we should stay beside him. And he said, no, you should leave. You can't do anything for him. So we argue a little bit with him. And finally he said, you should leave now. So it was so hard for me. How could I leave my son alone there? At that time he was 6 months old. But we feel hopeless. We didn't have any chance to stay. So we returned back home in the evening. I called the doctor immediately when we go back home. I called the doctor to know what happened to him. He started to explain his condition when we arrived, and he speaks a lot. Then I start to realize that he tried to find words to tell me something, but inside of me, like I wasn't want to believe what he's talking about. So my husband came and he asked me what happened. I told him, I don't understand what he's talking about. Please talk to him, but let the speaker on. I want to hear him. Then he repeated the same words to my husband, and I start to feel angry and I start to shout at him and ask him, what do you mean by that? And then he said, I'm so sorry, your son died. At that moment, I felt like that his word was like a bullet comes to my heart, smash it down for many pieces. I start to cry and screaming like a crazy. Didn't know what to do. Few minutes later, the house was full of people, relatives, neighbors, friends. But for me, I wasn't care about any one of them. I didn't see any one of them. I just care about my son. Then I start to convince myself this is a dream. And when we go back, I slept in the car, and the next day I will go back to the hospital, bring him back, and he will be in a good health, and all of this will end. But unfortunately, that was the truth. In the middle of the night, I was so tired. So I put my back to the wall and I have a dream. I saw a white dove came and stand on my shoulder and said to me, Mama, don't cry. I'm so happy. So I woke up my husband and start to tell him, both of us start to cry. Then my grandmother came and she said, if he asked you to stop crying, you should. And I told her he could ask me anything I could do, but I can't stop crying. He's part of my soul, part of my heart. And this is so hard for me. That night was the longest night in my whole life. In the evening, in the morning, they went to the hospital to bring him back to say goodbye for him. Until the moment that they put him between my arms, I was thinking that they are lying and he's still alive. And I was really miss him because it was the first time we were separated. Then when they put him between my arms, immediately I take the blanket off, and I was really shocked when I saw him. He was very blue. And when I always hold him, I immediately kiss him in his cheek, and I tried to do the same, but that moment was totally different because I felt that I kissed frozen rock. So immediately, without thinking, I hugged him so tight because I was think maybe if he feel warmed, he will go back to life, because I think, or I believe in miracles, and I think maybe some kind of miracle will happen. But the only thing that happened, that they take him away from me, and that was the last moment I hugged him. From that moment, I felt of hatred, anger for every Israeli person, because for me, I start to feel that all of them responsible about his death. Yeah, I didn't think to take revenge, but at the same time, I think that I don't want to have any kind of relationship with any Israeli person. So for more than 16 years, I really refused that. And because all these years, I was like asking myself why that happened. Because every time when the Israelis shoot someone or kill someone or take him to jail, they said that he tried to throw stones against us, or there are snipers. But my son, he was just 6 months old. So what's the crime that he's done? And then I answer myself, the only crime that he's a Palestinian. So because of that, I really didn't talk to anyone until one day, one of my friends called me, and he started to talk about many things. And one of the things that he started to talk about is the Barron Circle and how he participated in one of the projects. Then I stopped him and I said to him, "Are you crazy? I am the last person that you should talk to him about this. You know what happened to me and my family." And then he said, "I want to ask you a question. Why until now you didn't tell your other children about what happened to their brother?" And I said to him, "I don't want them to be part of this cycle of violence, because if they know, maybe they will try to think about to take revenge, or I don't know what they will think about." And I lost one of them, and that was much more than enough for me. I tried to protect them, to keep them away from the cycle of violence. Then he said to me, "So that maybe will be a good chance for you, not just to protect your children, maybe other children, other families." To be honest, I wasn't believe about anything that he was talking about. And I said, "He's crazy. I don't heard about anything like that in my whole life." So I started to think maybe he imagined that. So he kept calling me every like 3 days, 2 days. Anytime that he have chance, he called me, until one day he invited me to a conference in Bethlehem. And I said to him, "Okay, I will go there," just to make him stop calling me. And in the morning that day, I was really trying to think about an excuse, because I didn't want to go there. And then he called me and he said, "I'm waiting you in the car, so please get dressed. I know that you tried to find excuse." And I said, "Oh my God, he will never leave me alone. So I should go there just to make him stop asking me." So when we went there in the beginning, there were just Palestinian. I sat with them, start to talk to them. 5 minutes later, the Israelis start to enter that room. Immediately, I stand up because I start to feel there's something in my chest, acne. I didn't want to see them. I didn't want to be with them. And then he said, "Please sit down and just listen to them. And after that, whatever your decision, I will never argue with you about this." Since we were talking, something was really impressed me when I looked at them and I saw them. They hug each other and kiss each other like family members. And then I said to him, "I will sit just to know what the thing that make them so close to each other like that after all this killing of each other and after all this cycle of violence. Then when there's really start to talk about their personal stories, I was really shocked because it was the first time I heard something like that. And for me, it was maybe the first time I looked at them as a human like me and start to feel that we share the same pain, we share the same tears, even if our circumstances is different, but we're still human. So from that moment, I decided to be or to participate one of the project that Anita was talking about is Burial Narrative Project, because I want to know much more about the Israelis and about maybe the conflict, about their life, about many things. So this project is about to bring 15 Palestinian and 15 Israeli. There's some common things between them, like mothers or doctors, lawyers, student, whatever, met for 8 times, maybe every 2 weeks. We have many activities. We have 2 professors from both sides came to talk about the history for the 2 nations. We went to see the Yad Vashem Museum in Jerusalem. And we went, to know much more about the Holocaust, because not all the Palestinians believe about the Holocaust. Some of them, they think that the Israeli fake it because they want to have any excuse for what they're doing. And we went to a Palestinian village called Lifta. It was existed before 1948. And the Israeli were shocked when they know what happened there too. At the end of that project, we didn't finish. Like we want to continue this project. So the Palestinians try to learn Hebrew and the Israelis start to learn Arabic. So I will speak about the first activity. They asked us to talk about something happened during the conflict and affect our lives. So it was the first time I spoke about what happened to my son, and maybe it was the first time really I spoke about what happened to him, because even between me and my husband, like everyone kept everything inside of him. We didn't talk about that. And that moment was like to open the wound again, bring the memories back, the pain, the anger, everything again. I couldn't complete the story in the middle of it. I stopped, started to cry. And then an Israeli woman, she came and sat in front of me and she started to apologize. And I just told her, why you are apologizing for? She said, yeah, I didn't hurt you, but I know that the people who hurt you from my own people, I'm a mother too. I could understand your pain. I could understand even the words that you couldn't say, just you think about. And she came and hugged me and she started to cry. And I was really touched and amazed, because that was the first time someone spoke to me like that. Even my family members, no one of them speak to me like that. And I felt that her word was like light come from dark and deep place, open my heart again and my mind to understand and realize the truth around me. And I completed that project to know and understand the life of the Israelis. Then I take a decision to be a member in the forum, start to give lecture inside Israel, Palestine, and we even go around the world to spread the message of peace and reconciliation. During that journey, I start to learn a lot of things. And one of the things that helped me is how to forgive those people. Because I remember one day when they asked me to go to a school for the girls who will go to the army. I was on sleep all the night. I was trying to maybe to think, what should I say to them? What should I tell them? Especially they will go to the army, and the army, they were the reason of the death of my son. So I said, okay, I will go there just to tell my story and then finish everything, go back home. And when I went there and looked at them, I was really amazed. They are at the same age of my oldest daughter at that time. So I speak about my personal story, and we speak about the forum. Then one of the girls asked me, and she said, "So what do you want from us to do? Not to go to the army?" And I said to her, "No, this is not what I wanted to do. I have a daughter at the same age of you, and I love her so much, but at the same time, I can't control her life. I could give her advice, and this is her life. She should choose whatever she wants. And I will do the same to you. I will give you advice. I know that it's your country and you should serve it. And if you will choose to be in the army, please deal with any person that you could find, or you stop him as a human like you. Don't look to his color, don't look to his religion or his background. Just deal with him as a person like you." And that girl was start to cry, and after we finished, I was really shocked when all of them came and they start to ask much more question, and they want really to know. So at that time, that story gave me a chance to rethink about forgiveness. Because when I start to look to those girls at that age, and I say, oh my God, when they go to that crazy situation at this age and they give them a gun, I start to realize and understand they are so afraid and they could do anything comes to their minds, because they are still children, the age of 17 and 19, and even maybe the older than that. It's really a crime for them. They are the victims. They are victims of the law. They are the victims of their country. I can't imagine to send my son at that age with a gun in that crazy situation. And I was really start to learn a lot of things. And I start to have many Israeli friends from the forum, men and women. I travel with, and the first time I traveled with Gili, he was my partner, and we went to Sweden for 10 days to spread the message of peace and reconciliation. And then I have many partners. Some of them, they become much closer to me than my family members. And I start to look to them not just as partners and friends. Some of them become like brothers and sisters for me. And one of them is my friend Niv, and I'm so happy to be with him today and to tell you the story. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Laila. I'm privileged to hear your story. I must be as sincere as possible, as open as possible. This is the first time I hear Laila's story as well. I had plenty of dialogue meetings with other partners from the PCFF, but I'm privileged to hear Laila's story today. I'm so touched and moved. I want to thank you for your amazing and so sad story. I take a second to get back to my story, but yeah, I think I always start my story by telling that my life got changed twice. But actually, I realize now that anytime I hear a new personal story from someone, whether from a parent circle or anywhere else, I will share about other places where I hear for more personal stories of people. This is a life-changing events. These type of stories that you hear do something to, at least for me, to my heart, to my belief, to my full view on life and reality. So again, thank you very much, Laila, for allowing me to have this life-changing experience. Yeah, so my life got changed twice, so actually almost 3 times now after hearing Laila's story, but twice. And I would like to share with you these 2 time points in life where these things happened. I grew up as any other Jewish Israeli Zionist kid in Israel. I knew a lot about myself, about my community, about my country. I loved a lot to have treks, like travel in the country. I remember I was born in 1977, so today I'm 45 years old, in a small village in the center of Israel called Chibat Zion. If you translate it to Hebrew, it is Fond of Zion. This is the translation. Very significant name, as I thought it back then, and very significant for the subject that we are talking about. And if I try to remember to put during my lifespan some important points, so time points. So one of them is 1985. I was like 8 years old, more or less. And I remember that we had a family trek on a place we called Judea and Samaria. Judea, actually, really, really close to Bethlehem, really close to Bethlehem, in a place called Herodion. It's a archaeological site near Bethlehem and Hebron and Halil, where Horus, the king of 2,000 years ago, built his temple and shrine. And I remember we just went there. I didn't have any understanding about the reality, about the people that live there, because I was just a kid, 8 years old kid. Moving forward, I remember in 1993, I was on my 8th or 9th grade, more or less, and we had our trip in Jerusalem. And during this night, it was September 1993, and during this night, all the media were dealing with the first agreement between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And I remember as I grew up on a quite left-wing family in Israel, I remember it was a night of joy, a night of hope that something good could happen, and some of the violence that we were experiencing, both Israelis and Palestinians, during the late of the 80s, maybe could start and change from this change. But quite very soon after, maybe 2 years after, I was I was before volunteering 1 year before joining the army in the youth movement. And November 4th, 1995, I was at the square in Tel Aviv, where Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated by a Jewish murderer. And I remember this day, if on 1993 there was a feel of hope, on that day there was a feel of almost national despair, at least for a very large part of the Israeli people. A large part of it, not all of them, but a large part. So that more or less about my first years as a kid, as a child, sorry, in my youth. And then on September 1996, my brother Guy, it was more or less 4 years after he joined the army. He was my elder brother. I have also a younger sister. Her name is Michal. He joined the army as almost any Israeli youth. And he joined the beginning. He was an infantry soldier. Then he went to a commander course, and then to officer course. And then, quite in parallel to 1993, 1994, they started to build the joint patrol between the Israelis and the Palestinians during the first accords of Oslo Accords. And the guy, instead of going to the usual track of an officer in the Israeli army, he decided to go to these joint patrols. And on these joint patrols, there was a patrol, a vehicle of Palestinian policemen and Israeli soldiers or policemen as well in the border patrol. And they were patrolling inside the cities of the Palestinian cities inside Palestine. One of them was Tulkarem, where my brother Guy served. And he told us that there is at least a quite early experience of kind of a joint and collaboration between the most low level of the security organizations of the Israelis and the Palestinians, and it was not without any problems. During the eve of Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot of September 1996, Guy was at home. It was part of his vacation. And Benjamin Netanyahu, the former Prime Minister of Israel, he was the Prime Minister already then, on 1996. He and some of also people from the Jerusalem municipality, quite opposing the decision of some other security organizations in Israel, decided to make an act of opening the tunnels just near the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and that brought a very hard and emotional outbreak along all the Palestinian cities inside of Israel, in Palestine, and outside, also in all the Arab world, and all kind of violent acts started to happen in all the territory of Israel and Palestine. And he was brought back to the army. I remember I was 19 years old that day. He was 22 or 21. I drove him back to his base, the army base. And this was maybe the last time when someone from my family saw Guy, talked to Guy, was with him since then. The day later, he was on his shift, went back in the early morning, went back to sleep. And somewhere on the morning of Friday, again, there was a big rally in Tulkarem of Palestinians that were opposing this decision of Israel. And he was brought, they woke him up very quickly. He took all his gear and tried to see what can be done with this situation. He had another officer in the base that was injured. His name was Shimon Dayan, another officer of the patrol police. And when he was running trying to save him, his head went up above kind of a low hill that surrounded the base. And the Palestinian sniper saw him, shot him one shot in his head. It went out from the other side. And as we know today, the guy probably died just in place, on spot. As I said, I was volunteering one year before my army service, and my sister Michal, she was in school. My parents were outside of home working, and they were starting to arrive all kind of news reports about the situation that approached also Tulkarem. Clearly, my parents were very, very worried. They brought Michal back from school. I was there also at home, and I was trying to call the army to understand what exactly happened. They said they can't tell anything, and they just shut down the conversation. But actually, on that time, they probably already knew that the guy was no longer alive. It took maybe 4 hours more till 2 cars arrived to our home in Chibat Zion village and told us that actually the guy died. I remember this moment because we didn't let them even get into the door of our house. When we saw them, we just ran outside, saw them, and when they told us this news, Michal, I remember her, she was screaming and crying, and just fell on the grass just in front of our house. And my mother, she was just trying to keep her and me very, very close to her, maybe to protect us or anything else. Very soon later, my father and I, we drove to his mother, to my grandmother, to tell her that the guy died. And I remember I told her, I was the first one that told her in my words that the guy is no longer alive. And I remember this moment because when telling this to someone else, made such a difference on me. I think the most hard feeling I had from not this situation, but from the coming years, is what would happen if that wouldn't happen. Because today I have already 3 boys. My sister, she has 3 kids as well, 2 daughters and a boy. And for sure, Guy would have at least 2.5 children as well till now. And I'm sure that we would be a happy family by now, all of us together. This changed your life completely. As I said, this was the first time that my life got changed from this tragedy. It took me a long time to join the Parent Seeking Family Forum. My parents joined very, very soon, right after Guy died. They met very good friends of them starting from that meeting on a support group. Their son was killed as well, and they told them they can join the Parent Seeking Family Forum and join this very noble cause that Laila just described for all of us so nicely. It was 1996, and only in 2009 I had the courage to join something very similar to what Laila described about the narrative plan. It was before the narrative plan. I actually joined a very small group of 6 Israelis, 6 Palestinians within the forum. Half of them were members that were already several years in the forum, and some of them, as me, were very, very young, were very new to the forum. And after a couple of days in the Beshalom Wacht Salam near Latrun in Israel, where we joined and we met each other and we told our stories just as we did here, Laila and me, we went half a year later to Ireland. And over there, we looked on our conflict from the side. We saw Irish people, Protestants and Catholic. We saw England that were also part of the conflict in the Irish island. And I remember myself one of these days, after being in very close contact with all the Palestinian partners that I already knew for several months. On that morning, I opened my mobile, I read the news, and the Israeli army got into the house of several member families of the people I was with them in Ireland. The shock I got from the reveal of reality in front of my eyes was something I will never forget. I actually collapsed the day and cried a lot because there was so much contradiction between all I was taught till that moment and the reality that I had in front of my eyes. Adding to that, as Laila described so correctly, the humanity that I saw in the eyes and the experience, the mutual experience I had with all my partners, Israelis and Palestinians from that group, combined with that harsh truth reality truth, quote unquote, from the news, was something I was it was very difficult for me to cope with on that day. And I understood that there is only one way to see reality. This is not the media, and this is not by getting stories from far away, but you have to reach out. You have to find the other side, to look him in the eyes, to hear his story, and to understand exactly as Laila said, that there are human beings on the other side. As a child or a bit more grown-up Israeli, I never met a Palestinian from a very close contact. I never heard a story. I never knew how hard are the Palestinian day-to-day life. I never understood how privileged I was, first of all, not to know that, and today how privileged I am to know that. Because now when I do understand and I saw the reality in my eye, and I know what the cost of the grief, both for Israelis, as my family, and for Palestinians, as family, as Laila's family, I know that this is the highest price that a person can ever pay. Only now when I have 3 kids and when I heard Lila's story, it would just torn my heart. Just to think that something could happen to my kid, and the reason is not part of the story. This experience is something that, as I said, just changing your life for good, and you realize that you have to do anything that you can do to stop the grief, to stop the pain, to stop the misery, and the way to do that is I see it twofold. One, and is to stop the occupation, to stop the violence, to stop the reason that all this stuff happened. And the second, and maybe this is the way to get there, is to see the humanity of the other side. And as when I told my grandmother that guy died, telling your story is something that changed me as well. Anytime I do that. Just like Lila, I joined as a coordinator and facilitator of narrative programs for students and for young members. Each of them told their stories, one to the other, Israeli to the Palestinian, Palestinian to the Israelis. As Lila described, they were the same professors of history, told the history and the narrative from both sides. And being able to see this complexity and this not one-sided story allowed them, I think, to change their life as well. Today, instead, other than just taking parts in the dialogue meetings and narrative programs in the Paris Civil Family Forum, my youngest son, Goni, is now almost 6 years old. He's on a joined kindergarten for Jews and Arabs in Israel, inside of the state of Israel. And he started to mumble a bit Arabic. I hope he will get to a point where he knows even better than when I crippled Arabic. But for sure, it's something that will change his life from the first step. And I really believe that being able to experience this humanity of the other side from very, very, very young age is maybe one of the most important things that I can do as a parent for him, for my family, and for my community. Because my older sons, when they know that Goni has friends in Kfar Bara or Tira or Taibe or other places in Israel and Palestine, and when they bring this experience to their friends, also they understand that the situation is much more complicated and not one-sided as they thought, as I thought before joining the Parent Sickle Family Forum, and before I think all of you heard Lila's story and my story. And I think this is maybe the most important thing that we do in the forum. We show reality in its most complicated and complex way. And by realizing this, I think we can see that even though it is very complicated, there is hope. And this is what we try to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Niv. And thank you, Lila. Your stories are hard to listen to and heartbreaking. And it's wonderful that the Parent Circle exists so that you have a place to share your grief and to learn from others. And I truly believe that only by talking to each other, whether it's Palestinian, Israeli, and all the other issues in the world, if we can sit down at a table and really hear and listen to each other, that we can move forward somehow. There's so much else that is a problem with all the politics. If you could take the politics out, the world would be a better place. Anyway, we're happy to open up questions if you have any for either Lila or Niv. You can put them in the chat, or you can just unmute. We're a small group, please come on the screen if you haven't been on the screen before. We'd love to see your faces. It seems like the parents group Circle has been around for a long, long time. And I know there's other groups in Israel as well that are working towards this. We were talking before we actually started the program, that there are some people who don't love what you're trying to do.
Terry? I think we lost Terry. Yes. Okay.
I don't know which one of you wants to talk about that.
Oh, now you're back. You were just a bit
Sorry,
disconnected.
we didn't hear what you're talking about.
Oh, you didn't hear it?
Yeah, we did
No.
now.
Okay, I'll repeat, is that, I know that there's people in the government, the Israeli government, who don't appreciate the fact that that the parent circle even exists. And that I was wondering how, obviously you are communicating and you are participating with people, whether Israelis or Palestinians, who are like-minded, but how do you deal with the ones who aren't so happy with the fact that the parent circle even exists and all these other groups?
Maybe I will speak about my experience, that when in the beginning they spoke to me about the parent circle, I wasn't really believe or think there is something exists. But when my friend, he told me and he insists for me to go there, and I start to listen. From the first time I heard the stories, I really start to rethink about many things. So we didn't wait the politician to have decision, or they try to do something for us, because after all these years, they didn't do anything for us, just make our life much harder and harder. So we said it's now our time to move and to try to create new things. We try to save our children. We try to make this future better for them and for our grandchildren. Because when the governments, the two of them, try to make war, they will never came to me or to Neve and ask them, what's your opinion? And even when they make peace agreement, they didn't came to us and ask us, what's your opinion about that? So we are the people who are suffering. We are the people who paid the price. So it's our time to move and not to waiting for them. Because for us, the leaders and the two sides, they don't care about us. They just care about their chairs and their how to collect monies and how to be in the eyes of the other people. They are the best, and every one of them try to make the life better, but in reality, they make our life much miserable, unfortunately.
Thanks, Laila. If I can add to that, I think that the one of the reasons that they make our life harder, not better, is that they take the story as we all know it, before getting to the more complicated level of reality. And again, I'm going back to the message I had at the end of my what I said. I think we need to go to any place, both politics and grassroots actions with the people, because I think everyone deserve to hear the reality, to see the cost that is being paid for this violence, the occupation, and the war, and to understand that there is a way to get better. I think that both for the Israelis and the Palestinians, what the governments were trying to sell them for all these tens of years, is there is no one on the other side to talk with, and there is nothing to talk about. And I think that both these messages are wrong, and they're almost deliberate lies. Because if we, the two of us, Laila and I, can speak and can sit together and talk, even without getting to a full solution, but at least understand and agree on the cost and on the mutual goal, there is a mutual ground for collaboration, for discussion, and for agreement. And then we need to get also to understanding how we can live together. What is the mutual vision of Israelis and Palestinians, because we will not go to anywhere. The Palestinians will not go to anywhere as well. We both have a high connection to this place. And this is why I believe that it's our task to continue this message and to continue this type of dialogue. And not just with the people in schools, and we do that a lot, not just with people within ourselves or other groups, also in politics, to bring the real truth also to politicians.
So how is that happening? Are you being heard by the politicians?
So clearly, I think I can talk about the Israeli side, because over there I know a bit more. We have also, I don't want to call it a politician task force, but people in the forum that are in contact with the parliament members in Israel. I know that there are several politicians in the Palestinian side that very approve and support the principal family reform goals. And clearly in both places, there are also opponents for this type of message for several reasons. And sometimes also from the mainstream. I know that both in the Israeli society, the mainstream of the Israeli society sees very hard this way of showing, of presenting the reality as more complicated as they think it is. And also in the Palestinian side, I remember that was when I was facilitating a group of students. There is the normalization, or what it is called in Arabic, tatbiya, is a very hard and very understandable place of seeing collaboration with the occupier, and trying to understand that what we are doing in the PCFF, and Laila should say that because I think it's much more important to hear it from her side whether it is correct or not. It might be perceived as normalizing the situation with the occupier, but what we really need to understand is that we are trying to stop the suffering, stop the grief, stop the violence, and stop the occupation. And this is why we're doing what we are doing. But yes, there are complications on both sides, I think.
Yes. Lila, do you have anything you want to add? You're on mute.
You're on mute, Lila.
It's our big problem.
Sorry. In person, it's maybe a little bit harder because we can't go to schools to make dialogue meeting like here, because they think it's kind of brainwashing. So we try to meet with them in their houses, or we try to find other places to be with them. But for us, we said it's the most important thing that we could do between the people who like us, who, when they heard that our personal story is special, because in Palestine or even in Israel, we have the same thing, that when they know that we lost our beloved ones because of the conflict, they look to us as a heroes, or even if they didn't like our existence in this kind of organization. Like for me, my husband and my family-in-law, they supported me when they know that I became a member in this organization. And because after the death of my son, I even have health problem, and they really supported me. But my family in Jordan, they were still against that. And I remember before 3 years before Corona, I went with a forum to Italy. So I went to go to visit my family in Jordan, and my father started to say to me that you can't be with them. They're our enemies, you know what they're doing for us. And I said to him, I want to ask you 2 questions. You know that my son was died. Do you know the story? And he said, no. I told him, you know that I stayed in Bethlehem for 11 years without having my Palestinian ID. Did you know what I was suffering there and what happened to my life during this 11 years? And he said, no. I said to him, so how could you judge me? How could you want me to do something or not? This is my life, and I'm the only one who could choose whatever or whatever the best for me and my family, or what I will do and what I will work and all of these things. And he was really shocked because it was the first time I talked to him like that. And I was shocked because I have that power and that courage to talk with him like that. But then he said, it's maybe the first time I saw you spoke like that. I don't know where you get that power from, but I know that you believe in, and I will never argue with this about it, and continue if you want to do.
Right.
So we have many difficulties, but we always try to cross these difficulties.
I can add one last thing, maybe. I think the more difficult reaction that I get in the Israeli society is not just the harsh opposition, let's call it, but people think I'm naive. And I think this is even more hard than just someone that objects you. Because by naivety, they think that, okay, so you'll do something that will never come out from it, anything, the situation is so difficult, so hard, and you're just doing trying to take water from the ocean with a spoon or something like that. Mm. But I don't see that way, because I can look at around the history, both in South Africa, in Ireland, in Yugoslavia, and Afghanistan, all kinds of places around the world. Even when the reality is very difficult with lots of pain and violence, there is some flipping point. And we believe in the Parent-Circle Family Forum that we will facilitate this type of flipping point in history, because there will never be a sustainable peace and end of the occupation without a reconciliation and the humanity view between the two people. So it's not that everyone should go either to politics or to grassroots operations or anything else. We do our part by bringing more people to the understanding that there are human beings on the other side, and that the pain, the cost of the pain and the grief and the violence is not something that we should accept, and we pay too high price for that, and we must finish and stop it now.
Thank you. So I'm happy to open up questions. If people have a question, please unmute yourself. In the meantime, while we're waiting for people to think of questions, I'm going to turn it over to Melissa to share a little bit about the play that she wrote and what it's about in relation to the Parents Family Forum.
Great. So I didn't, in the program, I'm saying that I created it. I did not write it. These are the words taken directly from members of the Parents Circle. And so I interviewed about a year and a half ago 4 women from the Parents Circle, 2 Israeli and 2 Palestinian. And then the play is a collage of their stories, and performed by 2 of our actors, Newton Theater Company actors. So each actor plays 1 Palestinian woman and 1 Israeli woman. And in about 3 weeks, we'll start our production. And as Terry said, we're bringing the show to Temple Emmanuel. So we have 2 weekends of performances that will be at St. John's Episcopal Church, where we are in residence, but we're bringing a special performance of the show directly to Temple Emmanuel, and Terry will get the word out about.
It's on March 29th, and the information's already on the website, and you can buy tickets, and the tickets go to support the performance and the Parent Circle. So it's been in the newsletters, but more will come in the future. And I know it's so difficult to share your stories, Neva and Lila, and I know that, just to hear more of them, I've been to a couple of dialogue meetings, and it's very difficult to hear. And I want to thank you for sharing your stories from your heart. Steve has a question for us. So Steve, if you want to unmute.
Yes, I just want to echo what Terry said. Thank you so much for the work you do. As a concerned Jew, I'm just profoundly impressed by the courage you have. I have 2 questions. It follows a little bit on what Terry was saying, which is, what progress do you see? Number 1. And number 2, what can we do in the American, what can I do in the American Jewish community to further awareness of this? I must say, I am profoundly disappointed that there are 12 to 13 people on this call in a temple that has 1,200 families. It could be different things that go on. You know, there's a lot going on in the world. But how can we as American Jews help you? If we visit Israel, which several of us do pretty regularly, what can we do there? So that's my two questions: progress and ways that we can support you.
I will answer this, and maybe if Niv want to add anything. The progress that when this organization was started, it was just a thought for someone called Ishaq Frankenthal, which his son was kidnapped by Hamas and killed after 3 days. And after that, he didn't think of revenge. And on the other side, he tried to want to make this organization exist, and he tried to protect other families. And at that time, he was just alone by himself and his thought. And now we become much more than 600 families from both sides, and maybe much more than 1,500 people who are not lost their beloved ones, but they participate because they want to know much more. They want to be involved with the activities that we have. And we said the road of 1 mile starts with one step, and we walk step by step until we could do something, or we reach the peace that we want. We do many kind of activities for women, for children, for men, for anyone who want to participate. Every maybe year we have a different kind of new projects. Like this year we have in our women group a new project to even help the women who didn't have any kind of income sources, like to train them to maybe we try to do like small company from few women, like it's a specialist for weddings. Like some women will be go to have courses for like accountant business. Some of them will be like or study about how to make sweets and cakes. Some of them, it's everything about the wedding. So I think this is one of the things that not just to give them a chance to have another income. It's a chance to make them feel that they could do something, not just for their family, even for themselves, to let them have their own confidence and to change their mind about many things. Because we believe that if the person didn't start from his own and his own family, he will never achieve anything. Like I always said, it's so easy to talk to people about peace and reconciliation, but it's the most important thing to feel it from your heart. And if you didn't feel it, you can't convince anyone or even speak about it. And the other question about what can you do for us? We travel around the world, and sometimes we have the same problems everywhere, that the Arabs and the Jew who went to other countries, they take the conflict with them to those countries and they fight, and we know that they make other problems. So maybe this will be a good chance for you, maybe to help your community, to give them a chance to sit and to listen to each other and to talk, and maybe do the same dialogue meeting that we are doing here. And maybe not just about the conflict between the Arabs and the Jew, maybe even between like Black and white people who are always fighting about these things, or maybe other kind of conflict. And sorry, I forget what I want to say. So maybe I I will give the chance to Nev to speak about it.
No,
No, thank you.
It was full and beautiful, what you just
Yeah.
said. I agree with any word of it. And I would like to add that one progress I do see, since we do many dialogue meetings, each time we meet, whether it is in a classroom in Israel or other group in Palestine, we meet for, also as here, 10, 12, 20, maybe 30 people in the meeting. And these things propagates, maybe slowly, but it does propagate. And as Laila said, maybe organizing another meeting like that with another 10 people will make the next baby step for sure, but some progress. But what I do saw when getting to more and more groups of this type of dialogue meetings is the change in the people. So when they realize that things are not as they thought before, we call it emotional crack. We build, we just make a crack in the wall of ignorance and the wall of hatred and fear. And this is an emotional crack. It's a real one. And it really makes a difference. I really believe in that. And I'll go to the most low level thing that you could assist us. And clearly to being able to progress with the things that we do, all of us volunteering in it, but there are clearly things that need to get money for that. If Laila said, and she correct, when we go abroad, these things cost money. And we would like to thank Melissa and her organization for being able to share this type of donations to our organization as well, and the American Friends of the PCFF. Yes, I think this is something that for sure can assist not just the PCFF, but other important organizations in the Israel and Palestine that tries to bring reconciliation, dialogue, and peace for us. And as Laila said, not just in Israel and Palestine, also around the world. And I believe that doing this type of stuff will change us all, us as people in the conflict, also you that looking at it from a side. I remember one of the PCFF Israeli members, she was answering for this type of question that, as Laila said, that she see Jews and Arabs that went out of our territory, Israel, Palestine, and take the conflict with them. She told everyone, not just them, but also other people around the world, don't be pro-Palestinian or pro-Israel, just be pro-peace and pro-conciliation. Because being able to see the solution, first to see the cost, and then to understand the solution, and as we set it here, I think this may be the most important thing that you can do, and just to spread the news and spread this vision. For us, it is very important. Amen.
Yes, I agree. Communication is key. But Steve, I agree that there were more people that were signed up. And what usually happens is we record each session and we will send this out to those people who didn't attend, as well as to the entire community. But I think each of the people on here today with us, when you get the recording, share it with others, and share the link that was put in the chat, and I'll send it out when I send the recording of the PCFF website, and let people know about it. And donating is always a good thing. If you know of other organizations that might benefit from being connected to PCFF and learning from them, because I think you have a model that for peace and for learning from each other, and to sit down and to really hear each other's stories is crucial. So if there are any other questions, we'll take one. Roxanne, go right ahead.
Yeah, it's a little bit of an indirect question, but I think here in the States, we hear sporadically stories of what it is like to access from Palestine to access medical services in Israel. And I would just like to know from both of you, your perception of whether it has improved or become easier for people to access medical services when they're needed.
So, Laila, you want to start? I have one important thing to say about that. Maybe there is an organization of also members of the PCFF called Road to Recovery. And this organization actually, there are volunteers from both sides of the border, Israel and Palestine, that takes most children, but not just, that needs medical assistance to the checkposts, to the border between Israel and Palestine, and just allow them to get for that type of treatment in Israeli hospitals. And this is something I know that is being done, but for sure the situation is not symmetric, and there is a real problem of not just health, but health is maybe the most important one. As just Laila shared her story, it all started from that. So yeah, for sure there are a lot of stuff that need to be done on that aspect. I totally agree.
Yeah, before maybe 5 years, I was working in Jerusalem with an American organization called Shevet Achim. This organization brings children from Iraq, Syria, and Gaza to make heart surgery in Tel Aviv for them. And my work was to be coordinating for them. But sometimes we have few problems. It's not easy all the time. Sometimes when we have like an urgent case, like babies who are at the age of just few hours, sometimes Israel want like their grandmother just to be with them, not their fathers or their mothers. And that causes a lot of problems sometimes, because, you know, as a new baby born, baby, he should be with his mother, not with his grandmother or the grandfather. And some of them, they sometimes didn't find an older one to be with this child. And so we have many kind of cases. So it's not always like good and not always like hard. It depends about the situation even. Maybe I want to add something about the question of what you could do to us. I want to maybe add something like, we don't want you to pro-Palestine or pro-Israel. We want you to pro-peace. And this is the best for us, not to be in the Palestinian side or the Israeli side, be for just to make peace. And this is what we want. Thank you so much.
Melissa?
Well, you may have just answered this question, but the last couple of weeks now, we are getting the word out about our play, Our Tears. And I'm finding a lot of support. People are very interested. I'm ready for some pushback on the American Jewish side. Like there may be some Jews who don't want to see this play, who may give me pushback. How I can answer that. I'm getting some pushback though from young, non-Jewish, very progressive people who are asking me, why should I sit and hear both sides? Why are you showing the Israeli side of this? Why not? I don't want to come. I'm not interested. I don't know what to say to that. And I'm just curious, maybe Lila, you know, I don't know how to answer that. That's new to me. It's not my world, so.
Yeah, I know that the people in early age, like children, kids, or even older, they become much more aggressive these days, and it's so hard to deal with them. Not like maybe in the same way that we were deal with ourselves, and it's so hard sometimes to convince them to come and listen. And but I think if they just make it like how can I say it? Sorry, sometimes I lost the words. It's like just let them think, or it's something, it's not just about the Palestinian and the Israeli conflict. Maybe you will learn something else from it. It's about how the parents who lost their beloved ones, children, brothers, whatever, how they could deal with their lives. How can they forgive? And we learn a lot. Like every time I go to a dialogue meeting like this, and when I have questions from other people, I learn a lot of things. It's not just some people think that we came and just talk about our personal stories, speak about the forum and just leave. No, every time I have a question or someone says anything. So maybe this will be a good chance for them to learn things, not just about the Palestinian or Israeli, maybe something for their lives.
Yeah.
I would like to add that I'm sure that the goal behind this pushback that you get from these people is a sincere one, is a good one. So they actually really want to end, whether it is the violence or the grief or the sorrow or anything that happens to, whether it is Palestinian or anyone else. And they ask themselves, what is the best way to do that? Now, there will not be, I think, unfortunately, there will not be peace without security to Israel and freedom to the Palestinian and the other way around. And the way to bring these two people in agony, the Israelis and the Palestinians, to a place where they can reconcile and put an end to the suffering in both sides, we have two ways. One is that one of them will just disappear. But as I said before, none of them will disappear, even though it might be a wish of people on both sides. And if we understand about the reality that this is how the Middle East will probably look like for the next hundreds or thousands of years, Israelis and Palestinians will about to live together for the rest of their life. And to do that together, it will be only with hearing both sides of the story, both of the Israelis and the Palestinians. And you can also, I think, you can also promise him or her that when he will hear both sides of the story, he will realize that at least some of what he thought about reality is a bit different than what he thought. And things are more complicated than what it is, at least it appears above the surface. So maybe this kind of response that can be brought to him or her.
Maybe even like I want to tell you about the Memorial Day that we are doing every year. It's a chance to tell the whole people around the world that if we are the people who lost their beloved ones could stand side by side and be partners and speak about our personal stories in front of everyone who want to hear, or the people even who didn't want to hear, could do this. So anything is possible, anything could happen, because it's not easy for a person who lost his brother or a mother who lost her son to speak about forgiveness and about peace and reconciliation. And some people think that if you forgive, that means that you will forget, but this is not true. For me, when I said that I forgive those people, I forgive them, that means that I put the hatred and the anger away. And maybe this could help maybe children when they have fight with each other and you tell your child, forgive that person. He should learn and know that it didn't mean to forget what happened to him, but to let the anger and the hatred away, because this anger and this hatred close your eyes and close your heart and mind about understand and believe and could deal with the people in a good way. And maybe I will add the last thing, that when I told you about the dream that I have about the white dove, maybe at that time I wasn't understand what it means. But after I become peace activist and to remember that dream, I start to understand and realize that God sometimes give us symbols for things to understand, but because we are filled of hatred and anger, couldn't realize and understand that. And now I understand that it was a message from God that the death of my son will never go without any reason and without achieving anything. And this will be like a message for peace and reconciliation.
And I don't want to add anything else.
No, I think that both of you spoke beautifully, and thank you for sharing your sorrows and your joys with us. And we look forward to learning more. And I will send out the information about the big not celebration, the day of that you both have mentioned to the community as well, so we can continue to learn more. And thank you again for being with us, and thank you all for participating, and have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lila.
so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lila. Thank you.
Yeah,
Nate.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Nice to meet you all.